Hello, everyone. Hello, Donna.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
I'm good.
Good. How
I'm
was your
good.
day?
I'm glad to be here tonight. Oh,
Me too.
it was good. It wasn't all that busy. I wasn't all that crazy busy today. I sort of just took a break. Yeah.
Nice.
So it was nice. I sort of just relaxed and hung out. I didn't do anything, but every now and then, well, I'm on a recovery day from the exercising, so. Yeah, but I was so excited about doing this show, and we had told everybody here, well, last week that we had a special show coming up this week to commemorate your 30th year in advocacy as an advocate, working to stop and prevent child abuse and domestic violence, bullying, cruelty to animals, human rights. I mean, you've just done all kinds of stuff, and I really love your journey. I think it's amazing, and so many other people do too. So it's we just did that documentary. So this is what we're talking about tonight, everybody. So if you're tuning in, get comfy, get something to drink. I gotta show my Calgary flames. get something to drink, and I'm a Flames fan, so there you go. You can yell at me later. And I live in Calgary, so I got to support Calgary Flames. And yeah, just relax, chill out with us, hang out. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. Donna and I would love to, for you to just join us in this, But this is a really special show because we had a documentary that premiered yesterday, and on my channel, Laurie Smith, the whole issue, over on YouTube. And if you check the description of this video here now tonight, if you look below and you see all of our links there, you'll see the description of what we're talking about, and also there's a link that will take you to the documentary. So if you want to check it out, you can. And it was myself, it was Donna Kshir, it was Lee Roberts, and Michael Skinner, the 4 people involved in it. And it was great. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was.
Yeah. It just culminates, what did we say? How many decades of advocacy work just between the 4 of us? Like almost 100 years when you add it all up.
Yeah, when you add all the years.
That's crazy.
I know. I was shocked. Well, Lee has 41, I have 30, and you have 20. So
yeah, and Michael Skinner has a lot.
And and Mike
so
too.
It would be over 100 years altogether. Yeah. And
then we had
we've known each other.
Aaron. We had the clip from Aaron Bernstein from when he sat down with us about the Central Registry, and he's a huge advocate for children too. So
that's right.
There's a lot of years on that.
For years. There is, when you think about it. I mean, when you add it up, it's over it's 125 years between us all. And that's insane. We really gave large sections of our life to this, and that's why it's so important. I think it's, and it wasn't for money, and it wasn't for, it's like, oh, let's see what I can do to get. It was more give than anything, because we wanted to give of ourselves to be able to make change and be a voice for voices who were silenced, people who out there who are marginalized, who don't have a voice, abused children, they don't have a voice, right? So it was great. And the documentary is called Voices for the Voiceless Advocacy Documentary, because all 4 of us, really, that's what we really have been doing, is just out here making a whole lot of noise to change, to get people to change their hearts and minds towards children and stop abusing children and animals and elderly and bullying. And we're just trying to make a positive change in this world. And Donna gets laws changed. That's what she did.
I try.
I laugh about it all the time, because I'm like, we're kind of the, we all do our part in the speaking part of it, right? But you're the action behind the words. You actually get the laws changed. I'm like, yeah.
I've had the privilege of working on 3 laws, so it's been really, it's been exciting. it's a long process, but I don't know. I like the law side of it. 15 years ago, I more turned to the law side of it. We have Advocates United for Humanity. We have so many incredible advocates on the ground. So it was just really nice to like be able to focus on getting the laws changed, because when Connor Brossas was killed, Ron Sanders served 5.5 years for killing him, torturing and killing him. And 5.5 years is not, that's a joke. And I actually said to Kentucky, you know, you have to stop making plea deals with killers and child abusers. And until you do, you're never going to make a difference. And they did. They stiffened the law. And the best part about it, Laurie, was Connor's law, the law that was created because of Ron Sanders, was actually the law that put him in jail when he abused the second child after Connor. So I thought that was pretty unique that his own law put him in jail.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's tragic because, you know, I mean, most people don't want to see those headlines. I mean, just think about it. How many people want to actually pay attention to all that stuff? Like nobody, because it's so depressing. Yes. And the people that are doing these horrible, you know, acts against children, you know, abusing them in whatever way, they don't care. It's not bothering them, obviously, you know. So it's hard to get people to tune in and care because it's such a horrible topic. Like seriously, we decided that years ago, you know, Donna, myself, Lee Roberts, and several other advocates, we're doing a blog talk radio program called DTR, like we were talking about yesterday, and on the documentary. And, you know, we were like, we didn't care who was listening.
No.
We really didn't. We were like, we're going to say it. It needs to be said. Something needs to be done. And we're not going to just be hush-hushed and shoved under the carpet again. No, you know, of course it's an ugly topic and nobody wants to hear about it. How do you think, I mean, just like you said in your piece on the documentary, which was very powerful, by the way, it was extremely powerful. And
Thank you.
I'm a survivor of abuse. And I tell you, it's, you know, like you hit the nail right on the head. You're like, how do you think if you find it uncomfortable as an adult listening to something like this, how do you think those children feel?
Exactly. Right? They're going through it.
You know, they're having to deal with it and they're trying to survive it. And that's all they're trying to do is get day-to-day survival, a lot of them. And it's like, and a lot of them don't make it.
No, they don't.
They don't. It's so sad. And so, you know, we thought about it. We were like, you know, okay, so we're not popular. We don't care. Okay, so nobody wants to hear about us. We don't care. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to listen to what we have to say. We don't care. We're doing this anyway. And we just set out to do all this. I had already been doing a blog talk radio for my own stuff. And so I was doing that as well as doing that stuff with you guys. And we were like a powerhouse on the original internet radio. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was great. You know, we just said it like it was. We didn't sugarcoat it. We were telling the truth of what these children are going through. And, you know, I mean, yeah. So 30 years in advocacy. I mean, how many people can say that? Not that many. Maybe some. Obviously, there's some that can. But they probably also getting a really nice little, you know, however many figure salary. You know what I mean? That you did this because you wanted to, and you're not making nothing for it.
No.
None of us got paid to do what we were doing.
No.
And Donna put 30 years of her life into this because she cared, and it had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with power. It was all about making this world a better place for children. So for all the people out there that, you know, that just kind of want to run their mouth and have something stupid to say, put that in your pipe and smoke it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. You know, it's just like people, I know, like when I wrote my books and people were like, well, you're just writing your books. You're writing your story because you want the money. And I'm like, well, no, because as a matter of fact, I don't get the money for those books. I donate it. I don't see it. It goes directly to not for profit. So I have no idea how many books I'm selling. I don't know how much money they're making. It's out of my hands. It goes directly to them. It's as if it's a gift from me to them, so that they can use whatever funds to make a difference. And that's what I wanted. That's originally what I wanted. That's what I want now. I don't want the money for those books. It was never about money. And, so I always get to laugh at people when they say that to me. It's great. I love it. It's great, because people always have something stupid to say. It's like, look, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it. Just shut up and go away. So that's how I feel about it. It's a really unpopular cause. Protecting children. Nobody cares until it's their child.
Yes.
And some sexual predator has gotten a hold of their child, and then, oh boy, look out. Yes. Right. That's the pathetic part about it.
Yeah. I say that all the time, living in a very small community. No one wants to support it. No one wants to see what you have to say. No one wants to read the headlines. But let their kid get abused. Let their kid be sexually assaulted. Let their child be bullied. I'm the first person they call, and it's, you got to help me. You got to help my family. You got to do this. You got to do that. And we do. Either I personally take care of whatever their needs are, or whoever is the closest to them, like location wise and things like that, I will, have them work directly with them. And then once it's said and done and everything's over with, like, these people, they forget they know you, or you're the problem. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just took you to court. I'm the one that got your child the help it needed. I put your kid in counseling. Like, I'm doing all these things to help your child. And now you don't support our organization and the work we do. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of people. I heard a lot of people's feelings because I speak out about abuse. And like you said earlier, nobody wants to hear it. No one wants to see it. No one wants to read it. And I always say, what do you think that poor kid's going through? Do you think that they're there excited and happy because they're being abused every day? They're getting their ass kicked, or, they're being sexually assaulted? No. So what makes you think that, it's ugly? Well, how do you think those poor kids feel? And I get a lot of negative backlash. I get people that don't like me. I'm rude. You're damn right I'm rude. When it comes to protecting a child, I'm going to be in your face. I'm going to be rude. And I don't have a problem with that. It's like,
that's right.
My cause has always been for the children. I don't get paid. I've never gotten paid. I have my own job. I have my own business. I have things that I do. No, I do not get paid for any advocacy work, regardless who says I do.
Right.
I mean, we've had a lot of people say a lot of negative things about the work we do. Clear back when we were doing the DTR and we were working with the Michigan nonprofit, we had a lot of people say things. We had people threaten us. I mean, the founder, she had been threatened multiple times. And I mean, a lot of things happened on that end. And, people just don't realize when you put yourself out there and you talk, you are one that is going to be verbally attacked, or, I mean, they're going to try to do anything they can to hurt you or destroy you. That's why I take all the precautions I do, especially even like when I travel. I never tell anybody where I'm going that day. And if you ever noticed when we did the podcast, I never said exactly where I was going, because we did a few times. And then that was the time that I walked in on a protest. And I'm like, I don't want to be, part of a protest again. I've protested. I don't want to be the one where they're holding signs. Laurie, that was insane. I got out of the car that day, went around, and I always take a hard copy of the proposal with me as to what I wanted to do to change the law to have a public child abuse registry. And I get out of the car, I grab my briefcase, and I start up the sidewalk, and there's these people, and they're like, hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. And I'm thinking, what are these people talking about? Well, then they had these signs, and it was about they didn't support an open, child abuse registry. They were telling me to go home. And I'm like, what the hell did I just walk into? So after that, it's like, I'm not telling people my location. We will do the podcast and then we'll put it out later, because I'm not going to walk in on something like that, especially when I go by myself. It's different when I have somebody walk with me. It's
Mhm.
completely different. But to go by myself, and a lot of the times I traveled alone. I
You have
had
to
nobody.
protect yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm not afraid of people, and I have taken, like, trust me, I've taken self-defense. I have all the sprays. I will make your eyeballs out if you go to touch me. But
We protect ourselves.
but
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
very scary sometimes because, there's somebody out there, and if they're thinking, the biggest thing I get, and I'll back up a little bit. The biggest thing I get is a lot of people think that I'm trying to personally, like, ruin their life. I'm personally trying to put them in
Right.
jail. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is, if you committed a violent crime against a child, or you fatally killed a child, fatal child abuse, killed a child, then
Mhm.
yeah, I think that you deserve to be on a registry, just like Megan's Law. Because if
That's
before you
right.
invite someone into your home, before you start dating someone, before you hire someone as a babysitter, your kid's coach. I mean, I've told you how many times. One of the
Mhm.
biggest things that I'm so happy about is my grandchildren, my son-in-law, and my son are their coaches,
Yeah.
because I don't trust people. And
That's
trust
right.
me, I'm like the
No.
FBI. When my kid has a new teacher, I'm out.
You have to be, though. You have
you
to
know,
be, right?
yeah.
If you're
And I
gonna
said,
protect your children.
there's so many people
Mhm.
that slide through the system, or they do these background checks, and it's like, okay. But I noticed, especially on the Pennsylvania State Police background check that we have in Pennsylvania, if you put someone's name on there and you don't put like a maiden name on there, it goes right through, and there shows
Mhm.
absolutely like no issues whatsoever. Or even if you get on the
Right.
unified justice system and you put in the county, it's not picking up all the different counties. It's only picking up usually the
No.
county you're searching. So I'm like,
Mhm.
no, this is vital to protecting children. And I think once this gets out there and
It
people
is.
learn how to use it, it's going to be a lifesaver. It's going to save the lives of a lot of children.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, and that's where, we were talking with Aaron Bernstein that, education is going to be a huge part of this,
Yeah.
because people, I mean, let's look, okay, think about, most advocacy stuff basically wasn't even around when I was growing up in the 60s.
No.
Nobody was doing anything to stop and prevent child abuse. I mean, my parents were hauled into court, arrested, and charged with child abuse. And they agreed to go to counseling, so they dropped the charges, and they let us stay in the home, because they said that, okay, yeah, we were being abused, but they didn't feel that there was that we would be killed. They didn't think it was life threatening. So
Oh, wow.
that's great. Yeah, just let let the parents just beat up the children, and misuse them and psychologically torture
That
them, and no
that
no problem.
happens so often.
It still does today. And I mean, this was back in the 60s, but a lot around, somewhere around, I think in the 80s, it started to kind of, there started to be some advocacy work out there with Prevent Abuse, Child Abuse America, and all of this. Um, Safe, what's the one? Safe Child, or there's a whole bunch of them out there,
There's a
like
lot of them.
federal funded programs, right? And, they do try. But the thing is like, the laws and stuff, that didn't start happening until way later. We're
Yeah.
actually, when you think about it, what we did, starting when we did, like in the 90s and the 2000s, we're kind of the beginning of the real change that's
Yeah.
needed for to make this world a better place for children. And so many other great causes, let's just say.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, like I said, when we first came on, we're talking elderly abuse, bullying,
Mhm.
animal abuse, human
Mhm.
rights abuses. I mean, this is it. It's kind of like, it's the whole gamut. But, I
Yeah.
mean, I focused on child abuse prevention. And so the thing is like, when you think about it, what I'm really hoping is that people will see what so many people like us have done. It's not just us, but so many people like us
Mhm.
in our era, and they'll be like, "Wow, that's amazing," because nothing was being
Yeah.
done before that, really. And
Yeah.
so, as far as getting public information out, like education, so this
Yeah.
is a big deal. So when this law passes, would you tell us a little bit about the listeners here, a little bit about that situation with the registry and how you got it to Erin, and sort of fill us in on that, Donna?
Okay. So I had just come off of Connor's Law in 2015, and everything was like going through. It was getting passed, and Michelle and her family got to go when they signed the law or the bill into law, and it was like a big deal. Well, we were getting a lot of like media outlets, and they were contacting us, and like I was getting 3 and 4 a week of just like they wanted a comment, like what I thought of Connor's Law, or did I think it was going to make a difference? And I was like, you answered. Well, it was like probably a month later, and I got this message that I was supposed to contact this one reporter, and I called him back, and I thought he was just going to ask me something about Connor's Law, and he's like, no. He goes, Ron Sanders was arrested. And I'm like, no, Ron Sanders just got out of jail. And he's like, no, Ron Sanders just got arrested for abusing yet another child. And like, I just started shaking my head, like, what the hell's going on? Like, he just got out of jail like a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. Like, this is impossible. So I get online and I instantly started looking it up. And I was like, this is crazy. If the second mother, April Brandt, would have known that he had a violent past dating back to the military, she would have never got involved with him. Neither would Michelle.
Right.
Connor would be alive, and this little girl would not be scarred for life. So I called Lee one day and I said, hey, I got this crazy idea. And she's like, your craziest ideas are always your best. I said, okay. And I told her, leave it to Lee. And I said what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a public database so that people could get on, just like Megan's Law, and look up to see if somebody committed a violent crime against a child. And Lee's like, I love it. Let's do it. Well, I spent, Laurie, probably 2, maybe 3 years grabbing like the information, the statistics, reaching out to people. And then after that, I started a petition. And because we were trying to do it in Pennsylvania, I didn't know at that time that we had to have signatures from Pennsylvania. So I had to actually do a second petition. And then we ended up doing a third petition because we needed more support. And it's really hard to get people to sign a petition to protect children. You'd be surprised.
Oh, for sure.
All the people that even have children that have been abused. And to get them to sign a petition was like pulling teeth. And I'm like, there has to be an easier, better way. So then I just started calling like local law, basically, like the mayor, the councils, townships. And then I started reaching out to different organizations and asking what their thoughts was. I had a lot of them look at me like I had 3 eyeballs on my forehead. And I'm like, okay, maybe this wasn't like a great idea. But then I had the organizations that was like, this is awesome. And this is perfect. And we can really protect kids. And then I was like, okay. So then I started reaching out to local government. And that was like Stephanie Borowitz and different state representatives. And at first, Stephanie was not on board, but I'll tell you, she really had no clue, I don't think, what I was really talking about. I think she had a general idea, but there was a lot of things that wasn't worked out because when I first wrote what I wanted to be for the law, it was like 30 pages. And for somebody to sit down and literally read 30 pages of what I want to do, that takes a lot of time, especially when you're busy like they are. So I met with her and she was like, give it a year and come back. I said, okay. Well, I just continued reaching out to all these different people. I reached out to Doug Mastriana. I did Chris Dush. I mean, I don't think there was anybody, Josh Shapiro. I don't think there was anybody in Pennsylvania I didn't reach out to. And, still nothing. And I was like, okay, well, then I had a second meeting with Stephanie and I kind of got pissed at her. And I'm like, I'm just going to go out of state, get this passed, and then I'll come back and then I'll work on Pennsylvania. Because other states, they were really into it. They were like, wow, like this could protect children. And a lot of states are really about protecting the children. And
that's it.
I thought, no, this is my home state. And I want to start with my home state first. So that was kind of what swayed me to stay in Pennsylvania. And I had reached out to Josh Shapiro and I did not hear anything back from him. And I thought, this sucks. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And most people, if they don't want to, this is awful. But if they don't want to support you, they just ignore that you even send them an email, or they ignore your phone call and they never call you back.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Yeah.
come on, you're the governor of Pennsylvania, like throw me a bone and just, have a meeting with me. I didn't hear anything. And it was my family reunion that weekend. And my mom was like, go, go, go. And I'm like, I'm not going. Like, I gotta work on this bill. Like, I only have like a couple weeks left and I'm done with it. Because I made a limit. After 10 years, I wasn't going to work on it anymore. 10 years is a long time to work on a bill.
10 years. It's like, that's 10 years of your life you're never going to get back. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like crazy.
I went to this family reunion and I talked with my cousin Casey, and he said, how's it going with that law? And I said, I can't get anybody to come aboard. I said, I've been all across Pennsylvania. And he goes, have you reached out to Aaron Bernstein? And I'm like, I was already up your way near Pittsburgh. I said, I at the time, I couldn't remember who I talked to, but I said, I already did. And he's like, no, he said, he got elected like in 2016, 2017. He said, reach out to him. I come home that night from the family reunion and I emailed Aaron. And I thought, this is a long shot. I have 9 days before I'm about ready just to walk away from 10 years worth of work. The next morning I wake up and I have an email from Aaron. And I'm just like, I wanted to open it, but I didn't. And I'm like, I got an email, but I didn't want to open it because I was so afraid that it was going to be another rejection letter. So finally, it got the best of me, and I'm just like, I'm going to open it. I opened it, and he's like, I love it. I'm going to put a bill together on it. And then I was like, wow. And like, I emailed him back, and like, we kept emailing back and forth. And then I said, can you give us just like some kind of a little statement so that we can read on the air? And he's like, no, I'll come on with you and discuss it. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I really like this guy. Well, then
that was so cool.
After I did more research on him, he worked on Markey's Law, and he has advocated for children. And he was a foster parent, and then he adopted kids. So like, he was right on point about protecting children. And I'll tell you what, he is kicking ass. Like, he is taking, prisoners. He has co-sponsors. Like, he's going to get this done. He's definitely going to get this done.
Yeah.
He's an incredible
man. It's just amazing. Like, you were just almost at 10 years and just like, and then you go to a reunion barbecue. One of your cousins says, have you tried so-and-so? And you're like, no, you know what I mean? And then it turns out he's the one who can do this and make this happen.
Yeah.
It's like, it's meant to be. It's absolutely meant to be.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about that, you had to do a lot of, you did a lot of legwork and a lot of knocking on doors and pounding the pavement, like so they say, to get somebody to be interested in this and getting this law passed. And then there he is, just a few days before your 10th year of saying, that's it, 10 years. And there he is, and he's like, hey, I'm in.
We did 4 years of radio. I have 4 years, or I think it's like 3 seasons or 4 years, something to that effect, of the radio shows we did, the podcast. Every time we would be traveling, I would say like I wouldn't say exactly where I was going. And then there was a lot of people, they're like, please don't talk about me on your podcast because I know you're going to bash me. And I'm like, I never really bashed anybody. I just said how I was feeling. Like, if you travel an hour, you travel 2 hours. Sometimes I traveled 4 hours to meet with somebody. And they turn you away, or within 15 minutes, they tell you no. It's like, you just wasted a whole day for somebody just to say no in the first 15 minutes.
And a tank of gas.
Yeah. And like, I was so mad different times. I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, I just traveled 4 hours for you to cancel the meeting, or I just drove 4 hours for you to talk to me for 15 minutes and say, no, this isn't something I'm interested in. And it's like, no, this is bullshit. You have to see the importance of protecting children. And I kept saying, I have this vision. And I thought, no one on the planet is going to see this vision but me, because everybody kept saying, no, no, no. And then he was like, I love it. And I was just, when we had him on the show, that was incredible. When you had us sit down and we did that interview with Aaron, it was so memorable. But I do laugh because he said my email was long.
Yeah, that was funny. We all laughed when he said that. There was a couple times that he had us laughing. It was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a nice guy, and he really does care about children. You know, so
Yeah,
many of these politicians. I'm not naming names. I'm just saying, not all of them, of course, not all. You can't just generalize and say, oh, they're all a certain way, because they're not. But so
they're
many
not.
of them are so afraid of losing their campaign, or not making it in to be voted in the next time. So they're watching everything that they're doing, and if it has anything to do with like something, even if such a thing is so important as preventing and stopping child abuse, as much as we possibly can. We're never going to stop it all,
No.
but we could try to stop some of it, try to save some children's lives. And the thing is like, they're just looking at that going, not this year. You know what I mean? It's not going to work. And in the meantime, we're just going, how many kids are going to die? Like, seriously. And of course, they know this, but it's not enough to make them change their mind. And I love Aaron Bernstein because he's bold, and he's like, hey, I care about the welfare of children in my state in Pennsylvania. And he says, I mean, hey, this may even go nationwide. You know what I mean? So
that's the goal.
This is, I'm so grateful to you, Donna, because, honestly, if he would have done that, he was already working on Markey's Law, like we said. Mm-hmm. But he said that had he known, because he says, isn't this already a law? He goes, why isn't this already a law? And then he goes, if it was already a law, I would have, I'm kind of quoting him sort of. He said, if it was already a law, I would have already known about it. So he's like, we got to get this done. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And why has it been done before? Why is this not a federal, nationwide federal law, right? So it's just, why? Because nobody really cares about these children that are dying. It's obviously the people that are killing them and torturing them, and maybe it was accidental and they just killed them and they didn't mean to. But either way, whatever, the child is dead. They don't care about them, or they wouldn't be doing that to them. Their families are letting them down. Their neighborhoods are letting them down. Their cities, their towns, their mayors, their governors, their all of the politicians are letting them down. Schools are letting them down because they're not even doing proper welfare checks. Where are these kids? You know what I mean? Half the time, you see stuff in the newspaper, some of these articles where children were murdered 2 or 3 years ago, and nobody even bothered to check in to see where these children were. They just disappeared from the school system. So it's kind of like, that's because a lot of people don't care about children.
That's a shame. They don't.
And I'm sitting here going, to me, that's so, that's so, I want to say, ancient, before the Vikings, you know what I mean? That kind of crazy behavior that people used to have towards children. Haven't we gotten anywhere past that yet? You know what I mean? Like, haven't we grown as a human population here on the earth that we could say, hey, we need to look after our little ones. We got to protect our little children. We got to protect everybody's little child, not just our own. And we got to protect the elderly. And we got
look at the court. I've had 20 people reach out to me in Lycoming County, and that's a few counties over from me. And they have told me about child sexual abuse, child predators. People in Megan's Law have been going into court, and they're walking out with no bond, no ankle bracelets, no nothing. Like they're getting a slap on the wrist, and then their sentences are so minimal that they're not really giving these people that's sexually assaulting children any time in jail, and they're giving them probation. And I'm just like, what about our kids? Like, kids weren't meant to be sexually assaulted by adults. Like, I'm sorry.
No, they weren't.
It's not the way that it's supposed to be. And you're in a position of power, and you are a judge, and you're there, and you're supposed to be giving these people the punishment that fits the crime. Sadly, it never fits the crime. You're giving them a slap on the wrist. You're not holding them. I mean, they don't have to have any bail or anything. Like, they're just letting them right back out in the streets. And that's not cool. Like,
then,
you're literally putting more children at risk because you're not taking any measures or any steps to protect our children.
That's right. They're just free to reoffend, right?
It's insane.
It is insane. It is. It's completely insane.
Children deserve to be protected. Children deserve to be safe, and children deserve to be loved. Ever since I got started in advocacy back in 1995, that was my goal. Safe. All children deserve to be safe. And I don't understand how, Laurie, I see kids I don't even know, and I worry about their safety. I see these little kids and I think they're the sweetest, cutest little things, like, how could anybody hurt like a baby or a child? Or, there's so many different cases that I've looked back on over the years. There's cases that you and I talked about when we were on DTR. I remember, do you remember Michael, the little boy that took the muffin off the stove and he was beat to death over the course of a few days? Those cases are
horrible.
Like these cases
are like tortured that little boy.
Yeah.
And the mother just allowed it because she said she was afraid for her own life. So she didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And just let this man kill this little boy within a 3-day period. Terrible.
Can I ask you a question? As a mother, an aunt, a grandparent, even anyone, just as a bystander, a person on the street, how do you condone someone being in a relationship, whether it's a man or a woman, with someone, and then that person allowing someone to abuse their child, beat their child, sexually assault their child? How do you do that? Because we see so many different cases. There's one right now in Lycoming County, and this mother would get her daughter drunk, a little girl, 10 years old, get her drunk so that her live-in boyfriend could sexually assault this little girl. How the hell do you do that? Like, what are you thinking? What's wrong with you that you're willing to put your child in that position to allow them to be sexually assaulted so that you can be with a man? He's not with you because he loves you. He's not with you because he wants to be. He's with you because you're giving him your child. Don't people see that? Don't they understand that? That's what frustrates me.
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with the way that people think about life in general. You know what I mean? Like, the people that do those things, seriously, what is their IQ? I'm sorry, but we may as well ask it, because no one in their right mind would let that happen to their child. No one.
Look at all the doctors. Look at all the lawyers. Look at all the politicians that.
Oh yeah.
They sexually assault
That's
children.
what I mean.
It's children.
Well, yeah, it's not necessarily an IQ issue. You're right, but I'm saying some of it I think is, and also the fact that because I've seen a lot of these cases. Okay, yeah, because not all. That's right, because there's plenty of extremely intelligent people out there abusing children too. But I look at some of these cases, especially ones where the mothers allow their children to be sexually abused by whoever,
I can't.
Boyfriend of the week or girlfriend of the week or whoever it is, and it's like, I sit there and I look at them and I'm literally following the story and following what's going on. And literally there's not much happening up here in the brain cells. They're just so messed up in their thinking. They're messed up in their head. They shouldn't be allowed to have children in the first place. To be honest with you, I don't think so. It's like that child shouldn't have to suffer just because that parent makes a bad decision like that. That's terrible. So whether their parent is themselves responsible for the abuse or they're just allowing somebody else to do it, they're guilty.
Exactly.
Guilty as could be.
Yeah.
It's seriously. It's the same with my mom. I mean, my mom knew what my brother was doing to me because I told her. And I was 8 years old. My mom didn't want to deal with it. She just didn't want to deal with it.
I'm sorry.
So she didn't stop it. She didn't do nothing about it. She was just as guilty as my brother, who was responsible for that.
If you know and you allow, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like they're not. No, these people are not. It's like they're not thinking properly. They're not coping. They're not making proper decisions. This is what we have to seriously the courts need much stiffer penalties.
Yeah.
Because if a mother thought, let's say that you take this situation with this little girl, and the mother getting her little 10-year-old daughter drunk so that she can have her boyfriend sexually assault or molest the girl, whatever. And if there's a stiffer penalty, and they know that they're going to pay some serious time for this, because it's, the courts have come up with a system where the crime, the time meets the crime. And so, they're going to spend 50 to 75 years behind bars. Do you think they're going to go ahead and do that? I don't think so. But they know that they're going to go into that court, and that judge is going to let them off with time served.
Yep. Happens every day.
So they don't have any problem with it. You know what I mean?
No.
And
that's why you have all these people that don't register for Megan's Law.
You know what I found out?
These people don't register for Megan's Law because they know that nothing's going to happen to them. They know that they're going to get a slap on the wrist. Or I just read a thing in the paper the other day about someone didn't register for Megan's Law, and the guy literally got probation. How the hell are you a sexual offender for life and you get probation for not registering? There has to be stricter laws. There has to be hard. And that was kind of why I turned to law. A lot of people was like, why did you take off, and leave basically the hands-on stuff? I didn't walk away from the hands-on stuff. I still do it, but not as much, because it takes a lot of time to research. It takes a long time to gather the information you need. The only way to make a difference is to make the law stricter and harsher. And that's my goal. That's why I turn to the law part, because it's like, that's the only way we're truly going to make a difference and save lives. If you know that you're going to get 30 years by doing something to a child, you're going to think about it. You're really going to think before you act. I used this as part of a testimony I did for lawmakers. People in other countries, if you steal, they chop off a hand. You steal again, they chop off the other hand. You have no hands to care for yourself, or you have no hands to feed yourself, you really think really hard. So here in the United States, we just can't go around chopping people's hands off, but we can do things that are going to make them really think about, is this worth doing this to a child? And if they do that, then and only then we can really make a difference, and we can save lives. There's so many children out there that suffer in silence, and people don't realize it. These poor kids,
no, that's right.
And then when the bad part is when they go to school. There was just that little girl, Laurie. She was, her father killed her. He took her to an abandoned house. He cut her hands off. He almost cut her head right off, and he raped her.
That is so sad.
She went to school and she told teachers. The teachers reported the abuse. She told the bus driver. The bus driver reported the abuse. She told friends and family, and they reported the abuse. And nothing was done. Nothing was done.
When is this going to stop?
Yeah, if we have people in place in children and youth, or different areas call it different things, CPS, DHS, it depends on where you live as to what it's called. In this area, it's children and youth. If you report something to them and they say, there's nothing here to see, and you keep getting reports, you really need to look into it. And they have to stop being so afraid of taking a child out of a home and do what that child needs. Get that child to safety. Have them talk to. I've been present. 10 years ago, I had someone that contacted me, and they were doing a child sexual abuse case against the father. The mother was claiming that the father was sexually assaulting the daughter on his visits. So they asked me if I would go to the home and sit in the home. So I remember this. Yeah, I've done that before, but not a lot, because I try not to get too involved, because I say a lot. And, when you're in a position and you're saying the things that I say, it's not a real comfortable position to be sitting with children and youth. But anyway, so they went to this home and they did an investigation. The mother's home, I was kind of shocked, because I always thought there was laws like where you had to be very clean having children. That was eye-opening, because there's no law saying that you have to be, your house can't like be a disaster, I'll say it like that, but there's no law saying like about you have to keep your house neat and clean and things like that. So when I walked in, I was like,
No.
okay, I would never, number one, live like this, but okay. And then number two, they go up and they check the girls' bedrooms, and they come down and they open the refrigerator, they look in the refrigerator, and they're like, we're good to go. They did a child sexual abuse case in 15 minutes. 15 minutes, Laurie, 15 minutes. Like, I say that because you can't figure something out. So I said to the one person, I said, you didn't ask the kids any questions. And she goes, yeah, I did. I said, is there anything you want to tell me? And I'm like, look, you can't lead a kid. I understand that. But you can talk to them in a different tone or a different manner to like lead them to tell you something that's going on. Nope. We don't do that. We don't do that. Well, the father was cleared, and guess what? The child went on, and the child was being sexually assaulted, and the child was later removed from the home. But I witnessed what they do, and I'm telling you right now, it was a joke. I mean, the way they worked and everything, it was sad. There was no justice for that child, and that child had to continue being abused. And then finally, months, and I mean months later, something was done. But then the dad got a slap on the wrist because he had problems, and he had things he was going through, and he was sad and upset, and he was having a hard.
Always gets the victim is always the one that gets totally screwed over, and the perpetrator is the one that gets the little, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
We know you're struggling.
I'm just like this. I'm
what
like,
about that child, man?
That's what I said. I'm like, this is ridiculous. What about the kid? And they're like, well, and it's like, they can go to counseling. I'm going to tell you something. That kid's going to live with that trauma for the rest of their life. It doesn't matter if you go to counseling or not.
I'm so sick and tired of that. Yeah.
There's, and then the bad part is a lot of these kids go on to abuse their own kids when they grow up. So you're just repeating the cycle. You're not fixing the problem. You're not fixing the problem. So stiffer punishments. And like I said, that's why I turn to the law side of it, because I really think that it's important. I think it's important to have laws in place to protect children, but I also think that punishments need to fit the crime. If I was a judge, I'm going to tell you right now, these people would be in jail. They'd never see the light of day again.
Seriously. I mean, it's a good thing I'm not a judge. It really is.
Laurie, I'll tell you, I'd be a total bitch. They would come before me, and I would be a bitch. I'd be like, you're in the hole, dude, for the rest of your life.
Yeah. You know why? Because you know what? I mean, there's no excuse for that.
No.
There's no excuse for abusing a child. Not any. And as Christians, we know who the just judge is, and that's God. He's a just judge. But he is the judge. He's the ultimate judge. And all of these, I am going to call them losers, because that's what they are. All of these people that intentionally harm and hurt and torture children and kill them and sexually abuse them and whatever they do to them, and all these losers that do terrible things to animals and abuse animals and kill animals and pets, and all these people that abuse elderly people and all this, and all these people that beat their wives, and all these abusers, let's just say, abusers of the world are the losers of the world. I'm just going to put it that way. And you're going to stand before the judge, the ultimate judge, that is God. And you will have nothing to hide behind. No excuses, no sorry ass excuses. You're going to have nothing to hide behind, and he's going to look at you and say, what did you do? And then, if seriously, you're going to pay for that. And that's what gets me through the night, honestly. Absolutely. Because there's no excuse, I don't care, I was reading up after I was sort of doing research, back when we were doing a lot of research with those not-for-profits that we were working for, back when, 2010, 2011, and we were working so hard on, getting information out to people and educating people. And I was looking to see what would happen if somebody, for my situation, for instance, if somebody who is sexually abusing a sibling, which is incest, familial incest, and what would happen in that case. And they said almost always they are not removed from the home. Almost always
a lot of times
they have to
not.
go for a little bit of counseling, and they're just told, oh, you shouldn't be doing that to your sibling, and they just let it go. There would be no prosecution. There would be no nothing.
It would
done.
depend on what state you're in. But it would depend on what state you're in, because some states do have harsher sentences than others. There's a lot of different states that like they give maximum sentences, and then you got the other states where they a slap on the wrist. So it always depends on this, like the state, and a lot of times even the county, like whatever county you're in will determine. Exactly. But again, Laurie, it falls back on the judges. It really does, because it's the judge that's given the ultimate sentence to say what this person's going to do or what this person's going to get. The laws protect the abuser. They rarely protect the victim.
It's so sad, man. It is. And I know, like, when Aaron Bernstein, when we were doing that interview with him, and he was saying, well, this law will pass. And would you tell us a little bit about what he was saying there, how that works? Like he said, it might not be exactly the way that we want it, because we can never get it 100%, but it will pass. And
well, when I initially wrote what I wanted, I was like I had it kind of laid out. Like I was like, I want it this way. This is the way I want it. And even when I emailed him this long email, I basically, gave many examples as to how I wanted it to be. But then when he come and he sat down with us, he said it may not be exactly the way we want it to be, but we're going to get as much of the original information in, which is going to mimic Megan's Law. And that's what we wanted, like a picture, a name, aliases, like tattoos, scars, things like that. There's a lot of things that we want to have in there so that people can properly identify someone. But then there's also going to be things in there that, maybe like we don't like. And I did read the bill, and it is a long bill. It's 51 pages long. So when he said my email was long, bill's long. There was a few things in there. I kind of like, I didn't understand because I had never seen it written that way before, but it depends on, who's putting it together, who's doing the writing. But the biggest things for me was, okay, it's not going to be exactly the way I want it, but if we have a website that we can pop on, like Megan's Law, and we can see if somebody has been convicted of abusing or killing a child, then that's a win-win. And it might not be exactly the way I want it, but hey, we're going to protect children, and that's all that matters. The biggest thing is going to be, once this passes, is the advocates on the ground teaching people how to use it. Because if we don't use it, it's useless. So
that's right. Because that's what he was saying. It's education. It's going to have to be to where people are aware that this is a tool that they can use, and that they really should use it to help protect themselves and their family and their children. And
Laurie, right now in Pennsylvania, especially with the job that I have, there's a lot of people that we have to look up, especially like if somebody wants to volunteer or things like that. So you have to do their clearances. One great thing about this is when I look somebody up on Megan's Law, I can do it in 2 minutes, and I can see if somebody has been convicted or not. Currently in Pennsylvania, and I will only speak about Pennsylvania, you have to get online, you have to fill out an application, you have to put all this information on there, you have to wait for it to come back. The plus side of this is going to be is if you want to hire somebody, whether, again, if it's a babysitter, it's a coach, it's whatever, you can pop on there and within 2 minutes, you're going to know if this person has been convicted of abusing or killing a child. It is going to be the best tool available to protect your children from physical, emotional, and mental abuse. We have to remember that there's a lot of times, and I say this a lot, one abuser affects the lives of over 100 children before they're ever caught once. a lot of people say, oh, well, that person, they're a good person. They're this, they're that. It's not the first time usually they abuse. They're never caught the first time they abuse. They always abuse multiple children before they're caught. So this is going to be a tool that if you move from another state and you move into Pennsylvania, and hopefully it goes nationwide. I really hope it does. But right now the focus right now the focus is Pennsylvania. Lee had said about starting in Florida and reaching out to people down there. She's taken steps and measures, but right now my focus is PA. It's let's get Pennsylvania under our belt before we worry about any place else. And it's not that those children aren't important, but we have to start somewhere. So I'm trying to start here and
start somewhere. Exactly.
Move on. I've had a lot of people from Michigan. I've had a lot of people from Kentucky, Oregon, Washington, Texas, Virginia, Ohio, and New York contact me and say, this needs to be a law here as well. What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, well, let me tell you what we're going to do and how we can do it together.
Yeah, that's right. That's so cool. Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm so happy to hear that, things are changing, It's just that it's, I guess because the urgency is there, it's always in the back of my mind, and I know it's always in the back of your mind, and all of these friends of ours that did this documentary with us yesterday, Voices for the Voiceless Advocacy Documentary, is because the urgency is there. Children are going to die right now, and there's no saving them. Those kids are going to die tomorrow too, and there's no saving them either.
Die each day.
And nobody's going to step in. Yeah, nobody's going to help them. Nobody's going to step in. Yeah, and it's tragic. And so this is why, thank God these laws are coming around. You know what I mean? But it's like it's gonna it's gonna take a lot of like Aaron was saying on that interview that we did with him. It's going to take a lot of pounding the pavement to get the word out, to educate people about this registry when it does pass, the opening of this registry, and that they should use it, and that they should really be using it to check on anybody who comes around their children. Because seriously, where do you think people who are reoffenders, who are convicted of a crime of hurting or harming a child or murdering a child or whatever, and they get out, they serve their time, whatever, time off for good behavior, this or that, and then they're free to go, right? And the first thing they do, just like that Ron Sanders, what's his name? Ron Sanders
the second.
Yeah. This guy, he's a reoffender. He gets out of prison, serves his time, gets out of prison. Within a month and a half, he's already back in a relationship with a woman who has no idea that he has murdered a little boy. She has no idea. And these people, they are cons. And I'm not talking about, it's not always just guys, because there's lots of women out there. It's not just men doing this. There's women that do this sort of stuff too. You have to be aware of who's around your child at all times. And you can't just say, a woman would never do that. You better think again. Let me tell you, think again. Because there are plenty of women right now in the news that are getting busted. These teachers that are having sexual relations with children in schools. It's happening nationwide because there's all these young teachers, and for some reason they think that it's cool or something. And I'm like, that's abuse. That's child abuse. They need to slap the law, the fullest extent of the law on those people, because they're teachers and they are bound by an oath to protect children. They're supposed to take, they're mandatory reporters.
Yeah, I was going to say they're mandated reporters.
They're supposed to be reporting abuse, not out there perpetrating the abuse. So seriously, there's something seriously wrong with society. There always has been. It needs to
Laurie,
change. And
one thing we have to remember is there's also a lot of good people out there. There's a lot of good parents out there that do want to protect their children. I have a very bad habit. A lot of times when I've done interviews in the past, I have talked about just like the negative things, the bad things that people do. And I kind of categorized a lot of people saying, they're bad people, they're this, they're that. But
we all do that.
There's
Yeah,
honestly a lot, and I mean a lot of good parents out there, just
for
you
sure.
like you and me, that
Thank God
really
for
want
it.
to protect their children or their grandchildren, or they really
Hmm.
do. And a lot of times when I'm saying like how bad some of these people are, I forget that there are a lot of good people out there that just want to protect their kids and they want them to be safe. And I know a lot of times I'm not big on social media. I'm not like a big fan of it. But a lot of times someone will send me something, either Lexi or Logan. They're the two that mostly do our social media. And they'll
Hmm.
say, "Did you see this or did you see that? Can you give it a comment or can you give an opinion?" And I'm shocked by the number of, like parents that'll say, "This is ridiculous. This is outraged. Where's the voices for these children?" And
Right.
a lot of times we don't focus on the positive things about these parents. We're so busy focusing on the negative because there are so many shitty parents out there. But I do want to say
Hmm.
there are a lot of good parents, and this registry, once
That's
it's
true.
passed, it's going to be an awesome tool. It's going to be an awesome
Oh,
tool for
absolutely.
these parents. It's going to protect children. It's going to save lives. I just,
Hmm.
I guess at the end of the day, I'm so thankful for Aaron. I'm thankful for Casey for letting
Yeah.
me know, hey, check out this guy. His exact words to me was, "Did you talk to him? He's incredible." And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I already talked to somebody up that way. And he's like, no, he's like, he was kind of new. He got elected and like he had all the information. And he's like, I'm telling you right now, he's awesome. And from the first
Yeah. That's
time
so cool.
I emailed him to the last time we spoke to him, he was incredible. I mean, he really cares about kids. And like I said, he's worked on stuff before. I don't see him stopping. I see him being a powerhouse when it comes to kids. I
Yeah.
really do. I
Yeah.
do.
Absolutely. Because he was already working on that Marquis law,
Hmm.
and it's like he's. This is the thing, right? I do believe that everything happens when it's supposed to. I
Yeah.
really do. I think that
We,
there is this ultimate timing for everything. You know
hmm
what I mean? And
hmm
you were just about ready to give up on it. You go to this family reunion. Just so
and it
happened to
just
talk to one of your cousins who happens to know that Aaron Bernstein is really into helping to protect children. And it's like, okay, it just falls right into place. And there you go. And now Aaron Bernstein is presenting it as, what's the bill number? One
it's
eight
PAH Bill 849.
849. Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is the thing, right? I mean, this is amazing. So kudos to you, first of all, for your hard work to try to get this
Thank
done. You know what I mean?
thank
And
you.
I'm proud of you. I really am. That's why we wanted to do this on Women Like Me Tonight podcast, commemorating Donna Shear's anniversary of 30 years doing this. Given 30 years of her life to um, not getting paid, paying a lot of times for stuff to put gas in the tank to go do this stuff and to make this, happen. So I'm just thankful for you, Donna. I really am,
Thank you.
because you're you're one of you're one person who I think is, if I like, 'cause, I don't really go around saying I have heroes and stuff, but really you are one of my biggest heroes, because
Oh,
you've
thank
given of your you've given over half your life to this. And I'm not for no money. Most people would not do that. They'd be like, no money, no, I'm not doing it. You know what I
you.
mean?
It's
And you didn't attach yourself with, well, because we had said back when we met, I mean, we were way more effective, I think, than any of these federal, sorry to say it, unfortunately, federally funded um, groups, because
we
their
kicked ass
hands are
back
tied
in
with what
the day.
they can say. Yeah, like they can't just come out and say stuff like that, because they're not allowed to. They have all these rules and red tape attached to what they can do and what they can't do. So we were like, hey, we're not federally funded. We're just out here because we want to be out here. We want to make a difference, and so we were doing it without pay, and we were really a
Mhm.
powerful uh, force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
That
I'm
was one
just
of the
really
reasons.
thankful.
That was one of the reasons I didn't really want to sign on with a bigger organization, because I wanted the right to
Yeah.
say what I thought. And I know a lot of
Hmm.
times I say a lot of different things. And I mean, just you yourself, we have been called names, we've been put down, we've had
Oh
people
yeah.
say crazy stuff about us.
Terrible
Um,
things.
terrible things.
Hey, we don't care. Whatever.
But at the end of the day, no, I don't, because I always think if what we say or what we do saves the life of one child, we did our job. And when we first started, I said that. And
Right.
the emails that we get, the comments we get on social media, the people reaching out to us on our hotline and our helpline, saying about how we helped them, how we've helped their children, how we give their
Mm-hmm.
children a voice when they didn't have a voice. That means
That's
everything.
right.
And it's never been about money. It's been about helping
No.
people. I put myself in that position a long time ago. I grew up and I went to school with a girl, and she was sexually assaulted by her father over and over again. Back in that time, you didn't talk about that stuff. This was back in the 80s.
No.
You didn't talk about that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Um,
Nope.
I can remember different
Right.
people within the community saying things, or even kids saying things, teenagers like myself, and different people or parents would be like, this is something we don't talk about. This is something we don't talk about. And I used to always think, even back then, this is wrong. Like, nobody has a right to put their hands on anybody or touch anybody or,
That's right.
violate
It's
them. You
terribly wrong.
don't have that right. And
That's
I
right.
remember
It's
even
a
myself, yeah,
terribly
because
wrong. Yeah.
I was married young. So it was like, okay. And I had 2 kids. And I always thought, anybody ever touches my kids, baby, it's on. I will take you
Mhm.
down. There's no way that, that you're
I'll
going
be
to do
seriously in trouble.
that, but,
That's it. I'll take you out. You know what I'm saying?
yep.
Oh yeah.
But,
No, this is it.
but I
It's incredibly
was always like, no, I don't want to have, I don't want anyone to ever have the opportunity to hurt my kids. So it was like, no. And I thought, if I feel that strongly about my kids and protecting my kids, there's other people they feel just as strongly as I do. So,
yeah.
no, I wanted the thing to be where we're protecting kids, all kids. And now I have 5 grandchildren, and I would never want to see them hurt. And that's why I always say to you,
No.
I'm so happy that my son and even my son-in-law, like, they're the kids as coaches, and they're so involved. And my daughter and my daughter-in-law are so involved in everything that the kids do, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want them to hurt. I don't ever want them to go through. Laurie, we've seen so many ugly things. We've seen so many kids
Oh yeah.
suffer. We've seen so much. I
It's
never want to
terrible.
see, I don't want to see any child ever suffer, but I think it would kill me to see one of my own, especially after all the years we fought so hard for kids. So,
Oh yeah. No, this is it.
no.
I mean, it's tragic. Um, no, I mean, I just felt like I didn't have a choice to get involved, and I think like our hearts are a lot alike in that, and I know like our other best friend Lee Cougardawn Roberts is the same way. Like we all cared about children so much, and we were like, somebody's got to be a voice for these kids. Somebody's got to do something. We have to, seriously. I remember when I met you guys, and I was a survivor myself of multiple forms of child abuse, and I was just trying to heal, and was starting to write my book as a blog first of all, and I was just so really thrilled with the work that you guys were doing, because so I was just following you guys on all of your, all the different social media network sites that you guys had, and that was way back in 2008, 2007, 2008. I think it was about 2008. And, I was just so excited to see what you guys were doing. I was already volunteering for some not-for-profits that were not so much dealing with child abuse stuff, but other kind of like human rights stuff, and Canadian Hunger Foundation, stuff like that. Helping immigrant women in Calgary, stuff like this. I always like to be part of something, But when I saw what you guys were doing, and I was working on my trying to get started on my healing journey, not sure how to go about it. I knew that I needed to do it. And I was like, oh, I have to get involved. I can't sit here and just not say anything, And so it's so important for people to realize, like, you don't have to be anybody. You don't have to have a degree to do this. You don't have
No.
to you don't have to be somebody that's like, so smart or so this or so rich or so whatever. You just use your voice, and the only thing you have to do is care about what's going on. You know, you have the
Yeah,
right to speak up.
for you to stand up for a child, you don't need a piece of paper to say that, you went to college, or you don't. I know everybody today, they're focused on an education, and I'm not downing education because,
No.
my kids went to school, even myself, I went to college at 30 years old. But,
Mm-hmm.
it's the thing is you don't need that piece of paper. If you see something's
No.
wrong, say something. If you know
Say
something's
something.
wrong,
That's
say
right.
something. If you have to stand up for
Mm-hmm.
your child or a relative's child, stand up for that child. You don't need a piece of paper to advocate for your own child.
That's
And
right.
I'm
Just do
sorry,
it.
but you don't. Yeah, go out and do it and be a voice and give your child a
Mm-hmm.
voice. Every child that I've ever worked with, my goal was to give that child a voice. I met so many children over the
Mm-hmm.
years that were voiceless. And when we were doing the documentary and we were discussing what we were going to do with it and what we were going to name it, you had said the voices for the voiceless. And I was like, that's perfect, because our whole mission, all these years that we have done this, has been to give children voices. And children, they don't
Mm-hmm.
have a voice. They don't have a voice when they're being abused or
Yeah,
sexually assaulted. So
that's right.
Voices for the Voiceless was the perfect choice. And when you said that, I was just like, yes, that's it, because that's all we've ever done is try to give kids a voice. And
That's right.
Laurie, yourself, an abused child has no voice. They have to put up with the shit
Nope.
whether they want to or not. They have to put up with the violence, the
Yeah,
abuse, the sexual assault, whether they want to or not. They can
that's
cry,
right.
they can
They're
beg, and
forced
they
in.
can
They're being
plead.
forced into it.
Yes, they can beg,
Mm-hmm.
cry, plead. Nobody cares. That's the point.
No,
The person abusing them does
that's it.
not care. So they have no
Exactly.
voice. And I want
Mm-hmm.
every child to have a voice. Every child.
That's right. It's just so important. It's like, um, you know, it's and also for the children, like for we're a voice. I mean, that's what I always thought. We were all a voice for these children out here who are being abused, who can't speak up. They're
Mm-hmm.
too little, they're too young, they can't, there's no way, they can't defend themselves. They also can't run away. You know what I mean?
No.
They can't do anything. They just have to endure it. And I mean, that's terrible. And so, yeah, a voice for them, and also a voice for those whose voices have been silenced. These poor
Yes.
little kids who are laying in unmarked graves somewhere. Nobody knows anything about it. These children have been killed, abused, murdered.
Yep.
We're a voice for them too,
Yeah.
and we don't even know their names. You know what I mean?
No,
Like, this is so incredibly heartbreaking.
it
Um,
is.
and I thought, what, I have nothing better to do with my free time, because I was working as well. I mean, we were doing this all as through the last 20 years, and Donna for 30 years. We were doing this sort of alongside of whatever else we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But like we said, like Donna was saying, in the documentary, she was working like busy, really 12, 16 hours a day. So was
Yeah.
I. We were working like seriously around the clock. Like, I mean, I had my regular job, and I had my own personal life as well. And also I was working on my healing journey, and we were doing all of this stuff
Yeah.
also. And people would say, well, that's insane. But you know what? It's something I had to do. I really couldn't do anything else. I had to
No.
do it. I thought, okay, I've had, for 40 years of my life, I was trying to run from the abuse. Now it's time to face it. And now it's time to be a voice for others out here who need somebody to tell them it was not your fault. You did not deserve that. You deserved love, care, compassion, concern.
Mm-hmm.
You did not deserve to be abused. And no
Yep.
child deserves to be abused.
No. Well, they
So
don't. No.
no. So this is it. Like, I thought, what else do I have to do that could be more important than that? Nothing.
No.
It's so important. Use your
It
voice.
is.
And I think, it's mostly like we would always say on our shows, especially for the ones like educational type, broadcasts that we would be doing. we were like, man, just look out for the kids. You look out, first of all, for your own children, know who's around them, protect them, um, and look out for the kids in your neighborhood, your
Yeah.
children's friends, because a lot of times there's nobody looking out for them. Their parents are MIA, who knows what's going on in their homes. Because that's what my friends' parents did for me. These people looked out for me, and I was really thankful for it. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. It's really important. So it's just being aware of what's going on around with your children. Because they're not safe at school.
No,
they're not safe at school.
No,
they're not safe
they're
on
not.
the bus.
No, they're not.
They're not safe in the after-school programs. Not unless you have somebody there that's actually like Donna, who is, works to stop and prevent child abuse. You know what I mean? They're not safe anywhere. You can't leave them and you can't let them run around the grocery stores. They're not safe in the grocery store.
No.
I mean, there's been several cases where children were in the cart and the parent left and went around a different aisle and came right back, and the child was being sexually assaulted by somebody right there in the store with cameras looking. They don't care.
No, they don't care.
The children are not safe, just in case you didn't know that.
Laurie, do you know my biggest disappointment throughout this whole chase with the registry? I always say the road to the registry was Governor Josh Shapiro. I was very disappointed when I got that letter from him. He basically told me that, I can go to him at any time, with any ideas, and he's always there to listen. But it just wasn't something that he agreed with me with. And I had a lot of people when I talked about this on the road to the registry, on the podcast, there was a lot of people that was like, no way, he wouldn't say that, or he wouldn't this, or he wouldn't that. And it's like, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to put the letter up on the website.
You got it.
So everybody can see it.
You got it on a letter.
I got it. So I had it screenshot, and I had Lexi and Logan put it on the website. I figured that way they can see it for themselves, because a lot of people think that the people that is out there representing us in the government, that they are on point, and because somebody thinks somebody should support it, the people automatically think they do. They don't realize how many people that we have talked to that said, no, this isn't something I'm interested in. Or instead of saying, no, I don't understand fully what you want to do, educate me, and just say, no, you can always come to me and I'm always here to listen, but I just don't agree with what you're saying. And I think I was more upset about his response than I was anybody else's, because to me, he represents all of Pennsylvania. And I think that he should be the one worried about protecting our children. There's so many things going on in the government right now that is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous. I'll just say it like that. And I'm not getting political. I'm just saying it's ridiculous. And
it's I thought worldwide right now.
Of all people, while I get a lot of people saying, I know your political party because you support Aaron Bernstein. And I'm like, I like Aaron, and Aaron's cool. And whether I support his party or not, I've talked to Republicans. I've talked to Democrats. I've talked to independents. So I'm not picking one person or one party. I've talked to them all. And I've had the good, the bad, and the ugly from each party. I mean, I
followed your journey for most of it. I know you talked to everybody, man. You were like,
I'll never forget. I had someone in my own community call me a baby killer. And I'm like, excuse me, what the hell are you talking about? And she's like, well, you talked to a Democrat. And I'm like, okay. Well, then I had a Democrat call me a racist because I talked to a Republican. And I'm like, let me tell you something. Number one, I don't believe in abortion unless, it's mother's life or something to that effect. Like, I don't believe in killing babies. Sorry, not sorry, but that's the truth.
My opinion, I just don't.
Yeah. And as far as me being racist, it's like, are you freaking ridiculous? Like,
Yeah.
Get out of here. That's
Sure.
just pathetic and sad for anybody to even say,
Yeah.
because it's not true. I have friends
That's right.
that black, white, green, purple, blue. I have friends
I mean, who
that
cares?
are
Exactly.
straight and gay and lesbian. I don't ever
Yeah.
judge anybody because I don't want anybody judging me. I always taught my
That's
kids to
right.
see in shades of gray. We don't see colors, we don't see differences. We see people. And that's how I raise my
Exactly.
kids to be, and that's how my grandchildren are raised. So don't come at
That's
me
right.
with that shit, because that's the biggest piece of bullshit lie I've ever heard in my life. But
Yeah.
that's what you get when you put yourself out there,
I just,
and people want
yeah,
to attack you because they want to find one little thing with fault with you so that they can say something negative. And it's like, you're really picking on the wrong person, because no, that's
yeah,
bullshit. I call it as I see it.
it
That's
is.
bullshit.
That's
But
right.
to literally
It's
have
total
people,
BS.
yeah, to have people say that, though, it's harsh. Just because you talk to a political party, that doesn't mean that you're representing them or you're agreeing with them,
No.
or it's like, okay, so I agree with who I agree with, and yes, my political party may be different than yours, but that's not for you to judge. That's my personal business. That's not
That's right.
anybody else's business. And I guess when we were talking with Aaron, he said, I'm working my tail off. And I said, that's my goal. And I guess I offended somebody. So I got called a baby killer.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just crazy.
You can't win. It doesn't matter
No,
what you do. You can't
no.
win because there will always be somebody on
Yeah.
both sides and all sides who will run you down for what you're doing, And it's kind of like you have to develop a very thick skin and just be like, I don't care what y'all think. I'm
Yeah.
doing this anyway because I
Yeah.
want to protect children and I care about the welfare of children. Somebody's got to do it. So, yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
But
Man, it
it's
doesn't
like,
matter whether you're Democrat, Republican, independent, conservative, whatever.
well, that's what,
Who cares?
but
It's
I
about
guess
protecting children.
on that show, and I did, because he had made a comment and I said, that's my goal. And he goes, I'm working my tail off over here to get it done. I didn't say it like to start like a political battle. I said it just because
No,
it was like, come on, they're kicking ass, they're making change, they're making a difference. But to call me a
that's right.
racist or call me a baby killer, that's just crazy. You're just pissed off because I talk to different people. But when you get a bill passed, what a lot of people don't understand, I need Democrats, I need Republicans. I need Republicans, I
That's
need
right.
Democrats. It doesn't matter how
That's right.
you present it. We need
You need
both
them
to get
all.
passed. Yeah. And a lot of
Exactly.
people,
Right.
they
So
don't see that.
I
They're like,
don't want to say stupid. That's wrong.
well, they're like, you're
People
meeting with
are
the
very,
enemy.
I think it's just that they don't know. They're just
They
uneducated.
don't understand.
So
And when I first
they don't know.
started, I didn't understand either. Like, there was a
I
lot of things I didn't
Me
know.
neither.
And I will
That's
say
right.
this,
But I wouldn't
anybody
bother
that,
calling somebody a baby killer either.
yeah, anybody
Or
that
racist.
do, yeah, they're the two worstest things I think you can say to somebody. But one thing I did learn is, if you do want to make a difference and you want to petition for a law, you don't have to have petitions. You don't have to have all that. You can just find somebody like Aaron,
right.
take your idea to him, present it to him, and it can happen just like that. I mean, we
Yeah, I had no idea.
clue. We had no clue what we were doing. All we knew is we wanted to make a difference for kids. Now,
Right.
it's like, now I understand, like, you don't have to go through that whole process. But I will tell you, I'm huge on research. I really think that we need to research a lot of things when we're doing something. And I do like to research it, and I do like to lay it out, and I do like to put my idea on paper. That way, when you're presenting it to them, you have something that you can actually say, this is what I want to do. Because a lot of times when you're talking with somebody, you only touch on certain points and you overlook a lot. And I want them to have the ability to take it with them, look it over, read it, and be like, okay, yes, this is great. No, this isn't so great. Yes, this would work. No, this wouldn't work. And I think that you do a lot better that way. So it's just, I don't know. I'm all about the research. I'm about detail. I guess I'm too old to change because it's just the way I've done it for so long.
No,
Like
I think
said,
that's really important.
Yeah, and like I said, I've worked on 3 laws over 15 years. That's a lot of laws. So, and a lot of people's like, no. Well, a lot of people will say that's not a lot of laws, and it's like, yeah, the time that you put into them, that is a lot. Let me tell you,
it is.
You're looking at years. Years.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. I mean, the research that goes in behind the scenes is unbelievable. This is it. No, it's kind of like you kind of have to do that because they need to see. It's kind of like covering all the bases. It's getting down to the nuts and bolts of everything that you envision, this law to be. And then they can go through and it has to all be there because you got one shot. And then they can go through and they can be like, yay, nay, maybe, absolutely not. You know what I mean? And they can figure out because they know basically what's going to fly and that the things will have to change anyway once it starts going through the House and they start voting on it. But it's, I mean, it's like I didn't know any of that stuff either before all this, right? I had no idea how it all worked. So it's very recent for me to even have any clue how this goes, how this works. So, I'm not putting anybody down who doesn't know that. But I'm just saying that everybody's so quick to start calling people names and calling people out when they're trying to do a good thing. Instead of thinking in their minds, hey, this woman is trying to protect children. So really, it doesn't really matter who she's talking to. No. I mean, this is going to be for the good of children, protect our children. So maybe it's really a good thing. But they can't see they can't see past that little thing that says, oh no, if they're talking to so-and-so, that means they're a baby killer. If they're talking to so-and-so, that means they're a racist. And that to me is complete ignorance. It's like, you're missing the point. We're trying to help children. We're trying to help protect children's lives. And this, the sad thing is nobody really cares until it's their own child. And then you hear then they're crying the blues. It's like, until it's their child, they don't give a shit about it, No. And that's a fact. That's an absolute fact. So it's really sad. It is.
It is. No matter how many times. No matter how many times you say to somebody, would you be willing to put your name on this petition to help protect children? No, I don't like to hear about that stuff. That makes me feel bad. Okay. Well, when that kid's getting beat to death, they don't feel bad. Like, come on, seriously? Yeah. Put your name, just put your name on a petition. And like you'd be surprised the amount of people that will not support. And I'm like, every time that I speak, I speak with a representative or anyone, I always think of that Eminem song. I'm like, you got one shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted, one moment. Are you going to capture it?
That's right.
And it's like, I always tried to kick ass every time. Every time I presented this, I tried to be the best version of myself because I thought this is my one shot. But I've had more doors closed in my face. I've had more people say no. I've had so many people not return my phone calls, not return emails. And a couple times I'm like, what do you people get paid for if you never answer an email back or you don't return phone calls? Why are you getting paid?
Can't be that busy
here? I'm like, what's the deal? Why are you getting paid? Now, let's be honest. If you're at your job or I'm at my job and we're not answering phone calls or emails or whatever, they'd question that. And these people, they don't know you.
So well. The people that are
like, I'd be on the chopping block.
They're gonna be like, what are you doing all day over there?
Yeah, Yeah, but no, these people, they don't answer an email. No phone calls, they just pretend like they never had a conversation with you to begin with. It's like, okay.
Yeah. No, I just believe it was all in God's timing, because Donna and myself are Christians and, we're believers. So I just think it was God's timing. And I think that definitely you had to do that long 10 years of hard work, and didn't know where it was going to go. And you just kept going and going and going. And the thing is like, the reward is at the end of the 10 years, and
Well,
it's Aaron Bernstein, and he's
yeah.
going for it. And it's like,
I always believe there's a reward. Like, you put in the hard work, and at the end of the day, there's a reward. And like, when he come in and he just like picked it up and he's like, I love this. I'm going to put a bill together. I was like, why didn't I go to you first? Why didn't I know about you? But I do believe like everything's in
a lot of time.
God's timing. And I strongly believe that. I believe it had to be the right time. We had to find the right person. And now every time I have an idea, I'm going to be hitting him first.
Yeah, that's right.
Children.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and he's like, I don't, let's hope this will go national. He's like, I'd like to see this go federal, like all nationwide. He says, but first we got to start with Pennsylvania. And the thing is, I'm so happy. I'm so thankful and grateful for people like that for people like, for instance, for you, for being bold and brave enough to do that, to go out there and pursue it for 10 long years, getting the door shut in your face, and you're still going for it. And I really give you a lot of credit for that. I mean, so many people would have said, 2 years, they would have said, I'll give it 2 years and that's it. You gave it 10 years, and it's like right there at the end of the 10 years, there's Aaron Bernstein. And, I'm really thankful to him. Absolutely. I'm thankful for people like him that will.
I didn't give up.
Pick it up. Go.
Do you know why I didn't give up?
Mm-hmm. No.
Did you ever look in the eyes of a child and see the innocence?
Yeah.
That's why I refuse to give up. When I look in the eyes of my child, my grandchildren, or my nieces, my nephew, or any child, I see innocence, and I see how horrible they are. And it's like, I know that we as adults have to be voices for them. And if we're not, no one else is going to protect them. So that was why.
Who's going to be? Exactly.
So that's why it was like, I was not giving up. And I did set a goal. I'm like, if we don't hit it by the 10th year, I'm done. But Laurie, honestly, I don't think I would have ever given it up. I think I would have continued on. I don't think you would have either. I said it because Lee's like, well, we have to have like a deadline. And I'm like, I'm giving it 10 years because a lot of the time in the very beginning was spent on researching, and we did petitions because we were trying to see how many people were interested. And then I spent so many years sitting down with groups and organizations and, like I said, local lawmakers and then politicians. And we spent so much time doing that when we really didn't need the public support. All we needed was somebody like Aaron to say, hey, yes, I love this. We can make a difference. And now I know the shortcuts. I know that it's not going to take that long. Never want to do anything again.
That's great.
But,
you had to go the hard way the first time, but now you know the shortcuts. You won't have to do that again.
I'll tell you, when we were working on Connor's Law, a lot of what I did was keeping Connor's name in the media. And then I was working on the zero tolerance law. And that was for people that sexually assault children. And, so it was like, okay. But I spent so much keeping things alive in the media, and then it was signing petitions and being a voice, that I really didn't look much into the process. And then when we started this whole road to the registry, I was like, okay, we're going to start here and we're going to work our way up. And I had no idea you could bypass all
when you
that
started it.
right to the end, and just basically speak to the representatives. But my biggest thing was let's do the research and let's find out what the law says, and let's see what we can do to make a difference. Let's get the community support, and then let's worry about the politicians. And now I know we don't have to worry about any of the other stuff. Just get a basic idea.
To do all that. Exactly.
Get to them.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It was worth the ride. I've learned so much.
I seriously think. Yeah, and I think that was probably part of it. It's not a bad thing that you had to go and do all that, because it really, when somebody goes works for 10 years on something as hard as you did, and getting the door slammed in their face as many times as you did. I mean, some of them would listen to you, and I'm talking not necessarily slam the door. Some of them would talk to you and listen to you or whatever, but they would just be like, not this year. Great idea, not this year. and always not this campaign, hit me up next campaign, and just so I say, shutting the door on you, because basically that's what they're doing.
I
It's
say
like
that.
not everybody shut the door on you, you know what I mean? But it's like somebody listening might not realize what I was saying. So it's like, no, just people, who would pretend they were interested a lot of times, and then say, well, not this campaign, maybe another time. So, okay, well, great. What about the children who are dying like right now? We need to
Yeah.
get this going. You know what I mean? It kind
Yeah.
of shows you that people, it's the politics game is what it is, and not everybody is thinking about the welfare of children. Here's Aaron
Yeah.
Bernstein over there already working on Markey's Law and
Yeah.
getting Markey's Law passed, and also now taking this on. And it's like,
Yeah.
there are people that do care, and so you just have to keep going. So
You
yeah,
do.
you had to run the whole gamut of everybody in
You can never
Pennsylvania
give up.
before you got to.
Yeah, you can never give up. And again, I didn't focus on any political party because my biggest
No.
thing was whatever I vote as is my personal choice, and I don't think anybody has a right to.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people, especially within my local community, they didn't realize, like, okay, so I'm over here talking to Democrats and they're like, you're this, this, and this. And then when I'm talking to Republicans, the Democrats are like, you're this, this, and this. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not anything of what you people just said, but
That's right.
I did make the comment when we when we sat down with Aaron, and I guess I revealed myself because I said that's my goal, and he said I'm working my tail off over here on that. I offended a couple people,
Mm-hmm.
but hey, I've been offended by a lot of people in my lifetime. I've had a lot of people say mean things about me. I've had people lie at me about me. I've had people call me
Mm-hmm.
names. So,
Yeah,
sometimes we're disappointed. We all are disappointed. And if you're offended, I'm sorry
that's
you're
good.
offended, but I've been offended. So I'm offended every time a child's abused. I'm offended every time a child's
Yeah,
killed. I'm
exactly.
offended every time a child's sexually
Yeah.
assaulted. So I'm offended a lot
Mm-hmm.
too. So if I hurt your feelings
That's right.
because of the party that I vote for, or I hurt your feelings because I have a big voice when it comes to protecting children, well, if you're
Yeah,
offended, that's your problem. I've been
that's
offended
right.
and nobody's cared. So let's move on
Mm-hmm.
and let's worry about protecting the kids.
That's right. That's right.
And that's
You know,
how I look at
I'm
it. And if a lot
offended
of
every time they. Yeah,
think
yeah. We
about
all
it,
get offended, and
every
I get offended when
well,
people, judges and all them lawmakers, let those people get
yeah,
off with a stupid little slap on the wrist, and
yeah.
you know,
We
6 months
live
in
in a
jail for
world
murdering
though.
a child. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, we live
What's
in a
that?
world where everybody's offended.
Oh
Everybody's
yeah.
offended by something. You can't say anything. You can't do anything because you hurt people's feelings. I didn't grow up in a
Mm-hmm.
time where you hurt people's feelings. You had an opinion and you said your opinion. Now we have to worry
Mm-hmm.
about hurting people's feelings. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. If I hurt your feelings because I'm protecting a child, I don't care. If me
Yeah. That's
using
it.
my voice saves one child, I don't care if you're offended. I don't care if you're offended by
Yeah.
the fact that Aaron's working on this law and he's a Republican and he's going to get this shit done so that we can protect kids. I don't care if you're
Mm-hmm.
offended. As long as we're protecting
That's
children,
right.
that's what I care about. That has been my goal
Exactly.
since the day I started, and that'll be the goal until I
Mm-hmm.
take my last breath. And
That's
I'm
right.
not going
That's
to change
exactly
my
right.
mind for anyone.
No, that's right. I mean, just check this out. Like Donna and myself know about all this, and you, the listener, might actually know about this too. But there are groups of people that are lobbying the government so that they can have sex with children, with minors. And these groups of people, they've been doing it for years.
Mm-hmm.
They every year they lobby the government to try to get the law passed that they can literally have sex with children.
And that's disgusting.
These are predators. These are perverted, deranged predators. It's not okay to have sex with children. It's
No.
just not. I don't care. You might think it is, but
Laurie,
then I would say that you're wrong if you do. It's not
did
okay.
you ever
Yeah.
see on social media the pages that pop up where they're talking about exactly what you're talking about? They're trying to gain support. I
Yeah, of
had a
course.
friend of mine,
And
Isabel, and she sent me a link the one day, and I got on and I checked it out. And this group, they were literally petitioning so that they could have sex with children. If
Yep.
you feel like
Yep.
you're an
And they do
8-year-old
every
child
year.
and they feel like you can have sex with an 8-year-old child, that's disgusting. That is
It's just sick.
absolutely disgusting. In
Yeah,
any
it's really sick.
state, any lawmaker, any judge, anyone that would support that, you're an absolutely disgusting human being.
That's right. And they were saying, this was years ago. This was like, oh, I don't know how many years ago now, quite a few years ago when we were talking about this on one of the DTR programs or one of my programs. So, and we were talking about this, and I was saying, they were saying, the experts were saying, it's only going to be a matter of time before someone in the government agrees with them and actually passes the law. And that's going to be the end of protecting children.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a law that says, oh, no, it's perfectly okay to abuse a child.
No, it's not. That's disgusting.
But they're not calling it abuse. They're just calling it sex with children. This is so sick and twisted. And if the public doesn't wake up to this reality and people don't wake up to this reality and start speaking out against it and not sitting there going, well, it's not affecting me, so why should I care about it? It's not affecting my children. Well, okay, what about all the other children out there? What about your children's children? If you're a parent out there and you're listening to this, children, your children will have children. Maybe, you're a grandparent at some point. And then let's say it doesn't matter whether you live to see your grandchildren or not, the law passes that says that people can have sex with children. Are you going to be okay with that?
No.
Are you really going to be okay with that?
People forget.
I hope not. I really do.
People forget that
it's
either
really
directly.
Not okay.
No, people forget that either directly or indirectly, you're affected by a child, because you might not have children, but you know somebody that has children. And a lot of people, they fail to see that. They're always like, oh, I don't have kids, so it doesn't directly affect me. Well, it does, because there's someone in your life that has a child that you know. It could be a niece, a cousin. You have no idea. Like, it could be a grandchild, a step grandchild. Like, a lot of people, they have this thing where, well, it doesn't directly affect me. Child abuse directly and indirectly affects everyone, because it doesn't even have to be your child or a relative. It's a child. That's the thing. It could be a kid on your baseball team. It could be a kid in your classroom. Directly or indirectly, child abuse affects you. And if you think it doesn't, you're dreaming.
Right. That's it. Yeah. So it's just, it's tragic. And that's why the laws do need to change. And, absolutely. So I'm just really, it's really, I'm very, very thankful for all the hard work you put in on all this, Donna. And I know that there's a lot of other people that are too. And it's like, 30 years does mean something. 30 hard years of work to try to protect children and all the great causes that you worked for. Stopping and preventing child abuse was the big, huge one. But you did a lot of other stuff too. And, it's not in vain. And that's what I hope that you would know. Because I sit back and I'm looking at it in a different perspective at your journey of 30 years. And I'm like, it's not in vain. Because all the work that, that you were involved with for all those 30 years culminates into this powerhouse of a lot of information being shared, a lot of people getting help, a lot of people, a lot of survivors getting help, a lot of with Advocates United for Humanity, the website there that has all the resources on it, all those books that you wrote, and we could talk, we could go on and have probably 10 shows like this just to highlight the work that you've done. It's unbelievable. But I know, because I've been around for about 20 of those years, and I've seen what you do. And so I'm like really just really proud of you. And I'm thankful for the work that you do. It's very important to me as a survivor of abuse to see somebody work so hard to and care about children so much that you would give over half your life to this. You know what I mean? It means a whole lot to me as a survivor. So, I really, I just thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it's like God just gave you a powerful voice, and he gave you this desire in your heart to be like, I don't care. It's not a popular topic, and it doesn't matter. And people are going to yell at me, and they're gonna pick at me, and they're going to try to destroy my work. But I'm going to keep on doing it, and you just keep on shining. You really do.
Laurie? You want to know the secret?
It's great.
To all the years that I've advocated, the secret, I surround myself with the best people. And thanks to people like you and Lee and Susan Dobbins and Betty Carr and Glendine Grant, and I could name 1,000 people, Warren, Van Speck, Sharon Young, people like that. That is the reason why we have been so successful, because we surround ourselves with the best. And every one of them show their support. They share our stuff. They're a voice for children, even though they're not on a platform or involved with an organization. They share our stuff, and they're a voice within their own. And I'm telling you, the secret is the people that you surround yourself with. And I have the best, and that is you and Lee included, the very best. I have
That's awesome.
Maureen. Look at Maureen, and the time we had her on the show, and she talked about sexual abuse and that incredible book she has. There's so many incredible people. I know a couple times when I was working on the registry, and I was getting down. I was like, I'm never going to get this done. She would always say to me, "You got this. You got this. You got this." And
you need you got to have encouragers. Yeah.
And I used to be like, "Oh, I don't know." And then I would come to you and I'd be like, "I don't know, Lo, like I'm going to stand still. Like I don't know what to do." And you guys just encourage me so much. And I remember the last time that I talked to you before we got word from Aaron, you're like, "You got this. It's only a matter of time." And the very next day, we got the word that he really liked the idea. So it's about who you surround yourself with.
I love it.
And I surround myself with the best. I couldn't ask for better advocates, better friends than all of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. I really do believe that God brought us all together. I really do. Because none of us were getting paid for this. I mean, we were volunteering because we wanted to be part of this big movement that was happening. And it's like, and the work that everybody did was just phenomenal, Back, I mean, and this is going back quite a few years now. We've known these people for a very long time. And I mean, they're still sharing the stuff. They're still sharing our material out. They're still part of the whole thing, And so many people, so many advocates that wanted to be part of the documentary. Unfortunately, we had contacted many people, and there turned out only to be 4. But that's because, and I won't name names. I'm not going to say personal information about why and this and that. But we had contacted several people. Donna did. I did. Lee Cougardawn Roberts, our other best friend.
Look at Mike. Look at Michael Skinner. He's incredible. He's an incredible
Mike Skinner.
An incredible voice. And when I listened to his story, I was just like in awe, because it was like, wow. Like I had known about Mike, and I knew that he was a huge advocate, and I knew that he spoke out. But to hear his story in his own words, it was kind of like, so when I was sitting back watching the documentary, it started out and Lee did the introduction, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is cool. And then you come on and you start telling your story, and like I kind of got drawn in, because it sucked me in. And then Mike come on, and Mike's talking, and I'm just like, wow, like this is so incredible. And then Lee come on, and Lee's talking, and I'm just like, wow, like it just kept, as it kept going, it kept pulling me in. And then finally it come to the part where it was the clip of Aaron sitting down with us on the whole issue. And I was like, hearing him speak without being on there with him at the time, it was like, wow, like his words, and he's so powerful, and then it was kind of weird. I'm not going to lie. It was so weird to hear myself talk on there, because I have this thing where I don't like my own voice. I'm like, I sound terrible on the radio. I sound terrible. So, you know,
None of us do.
but, and then you did the ending, you did the closing. And when you said the closing, it spoke to me. It like really, really spoke to me. And I got done watching it and I was like, this was so powerful from start to finish. Everybody was important. There wasn't one person that stood out amongst anybody else. Everybody was this powerful
No?
force.
Yeah.
It was just like a powerhouse. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
absolutely love this. And then I had a lot of people contacting me saying, you know, we sit down as a group and we watched, we watched the
Oh, that's cool.
documentary, or,
Right
or,
on.
hey, our organization, we had a screening. So, we sat and we watched it.
Mhm.
And to realize that I was looking at the views of how many people tuned in. And then I watched how many people, like had watched it since it released. But to
Mhm.
know that the amount of the views that it says, that doesn't even come close to the amount of people that had actually got the opportunity to watch it. It says like
Right.
a few hundred views, but there has been thousands of people that have watched it as a group, as an organization. It's
Mhm.
incredible to know that these groups got together to sit down and watch our documentary. That means
Yeah, that's
everything in
cool.
this world to me. I think that is so cool.
Yeah, that is very cool.
You know,
I mean, we just did the best we could. And I mean, I know there was a lot of people, a lot of advocates that couldn't join us, unfortunately, and these people were part of our life, advocating
Mhm.
along with us. And some of them, we knew because, like side projects, things like this. There were so
Yeah.
many, and they wanted to be a part of it. And unfortunately, there was whatever was going on in their life, they were not able to do it. And
Yeah.
so it was really kind of sad. I mean, we wanted them to, so if they're watching what we're talking about here, we wanted them to be able to be a part of it, but unfortunately
Mhm.
they just couldn't. And
We've worked
so,
with so many
that's
great people.
still,
We've worked with
yeah,
so
we
many great
have, see,
people over the
that's the
years.
thing.
We've been
Yeah.
blessed. I think of people like Glendine Grant and how she has
Yeah.
still the fight up for, for Jesse. And I look at her
Yeah.
and I think, you're such a strong, powerful woman. And, and I look at her and I admire her. And then I kind of look at different
Mm-hmm.
people that's speaking out about domestic violence. And I think of Deanna Dixon a lot. And I'm like, she was a powerhouse, and I know that like
Yeah.
a lot of things have
And Marie
changed in her
Waldrop as
life.
well.
And yeah, Maureen Waltrip.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's so many
Yeah.
different people like that we have met over the years but I'll tell you, we're all getting older and we're all moving
Mm-hmm.
on and we're finding new places in
That's the
our
thing.
lives. And a lot of
That's
people,
right.
they want to spend time with their grandchildren. And I know myself, I've said to you 100 times, like, once the documentary is done and this law gets passed, my focus is I'm going to spend time with my family. I mean, that means everything
That's
to
it.
me. I got a mom and a dad, and I got kids, I got grandkids,
Yeah.
I got a sister and a
Mm-hmm. And you'll
brother,
never get that time back.
and
You'll
their
never
family.
get that time back.
And I just want to spend time with family, and I want to do with family, and it means so much to me.
It's understandable. I mean, that's why I really make it a point to be, to point out the fact, because I know how old you are, that you gave over half your life to this thing. Okay. I only gave 20 years, so a third of my life. You've given over half your life to this thing. And
You know what's so funny?
I'm like, okay, you deserve
You
to
know,
have fun. You really
you know
do.
what's so funny when you
Seriously.
say that? So I have this thing that I have always said ever since I was young. um, Anybody will say about my age, and I always say, "Oh, I'm 29," and it's like a standing joke. Every year for my birthday, my
Yeah.
son and daughter get
Yeah.
me cards and say, "29 again,"
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Holding in
when
there,
you
29.
yeah, so when you say that I've advocated for 30 years, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm only 29.
Exactly. So I screwed that up for you. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Uh,
I think people know by looking
sorry.
at me that I'm not 29.
That's
But
funny. Well, plus, I mean,
it's always
you got grandkids and everything.
yeah, it's always a joke that I've always said. Or the kids in my class, they're always saying, Miss Donna, how old are you? And I'll say, oh, you guess. And then they'll say 25, 35. And I'm like, oh, I just love you guys. And I'm thinking, oh my God,
You guys are
I'm
awesome.
55 years old. And if they do, they're not saying anything.
That's so funny. Oh, that's cute.
I
Yeah.
always laugh because
It's
I'm like, the 29 joke.
it's funny. A lot of people go with that, right? It's like 29 and holding.
Yep.
I've even said it myself. You know what I mean? It's
I just
like,
think
you know, um, it's funny, right? It's kind of fun to do that. But yeah, no, it's a serious, long time. It's no wonder that you're just about ready to say, look, I want to enjoy the time that I have with my grandchildren while they, because once they grow up and they start, they start getting their own lives, going to college, perhaps going to some university. They're not going to even live in the area. And you'll be like, oh, I never really got to spend too any, even though you do spend time with your family, I know you do, and
my family
whatnot. You'll really be able to really spend some time with them, right? I don't blame you one bit. I myself, about 2 years ago, had even made a post. I made a video and on my own YouTube channel, the whole issue, and I put it on there and I said I'm basically done. And this was 2 years ago, so it's not that I won't ever. Like, obviously, I mean, I'm doing this stuff and I'm still speaking out for the rights of the child, stop and prevent child abuse, whatnot. I always will. But it's just that I don't devote the same amount of time to stopping and preventing child abuse anymore, because I mean, I'm turning 60 this year, and I'm like, I was abused as a child, and for the first 40 years of my life, I wanted to kill myself, and then I got help, okay, and I started to feel better, and I got on this healing journey. I started to feel better, and then you guys, you published my books. Donna Kshir is my publisher, just in case people don't realize that. Donna's my publisher. So, which was really a wonderful part of my healing journey, because it got my story out there, and I was, all that wounded part of myself was like, was freed. It was freeing. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, I'm not hiding in the shadows. I'm not alone anymore. That little girl that's alone and scared and hurting. I'm like, no, I'm healing. So it was great. So here, so I spend that block of 20 years, from 40 to 40 to basically almost 60, almost giving 20 years to it. 18 years, let's say. And I'm like, okay, so, 60 years of my life was really about abuse. I seriously would like to do some other things, which is a lot more fun. You know what I mean? Because I spent my whole life, so I'm like, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. At some point, a person has to decide how much time they want to donate to something like that,
Yeah.
how much time you want to give to something like that.
Yeah.
For some people, they can't do 20 years. They can't do 30 years, Maybe they've got 5 years and they say, I'll give 5 years to it. Still, that's a very worthy thing to do. It's a very worthy cause.
It is.
And
I will always be a voice. Always. I mean, I will never quit talking out for kids, but my grandkids are little and I don't want to miss them grow up. I want to spend a lot of time with them. And I want them to know, if they ever see this video, I love them with all my heart. They're my everything.
That's right. That's right.
My everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know that, because I know how much you love them. And,
Really
your family is your everything. Yeah.
They are.
And you don't talk a lot about your family, because you have to keep it pretty private, because of all the work that you've done and all the hate and whatnot that's come against you because of what you've done. So a lot of people don't really know that you are very much a family person. And
I don't share anything about that. No, I don't share anything about my kids. I don't share anything about my grandchildren. I've never showed my grandchildren's faces. You'll never
and
see
it's
their
smart.
faces. There's been a lot of people that speculate they know their names or whatever. I don't think so. I've never publicly said their names. I'm not even associated with my kids or anyone in my family, even on social media. I keep a distance from them because I've just always done that. After I was with the organization in Michigan, there were so many people that hated, and there were so many things that the founder went through. I mean, and there was scary things that had happened to her, and there was incidents.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, I never want to put my family at risk like that. So I never put them out there. It's not something that I would do. I've had my picture taken with thousands of children. So a lot of times people will say, if they see my picture in a newspaper, they'll say, oh, that's her grandchild. No, I've never had my picture taken with my grandchildren to be put online or in a newspaper or anything.
No.
So, my goal is always to protect them. Like I said, I love them with all my heart. It's sad, and it's really sad that I have to feel that way, that I can't share my happiness and my pride of how proud I am of these kids. But when you say things, there's a lot of people that dislike you, people that hate you, and I don't ever want to put them at risk. And that has always been one of the things that from the day I started, it was like, nope, we're not going to put anybody out there. We're not going to say any names. We're not going to. And
no,
I know
and that was for their protection.
Yes. I mean, it's only been the last, I'm going to say 10 years that even Roger, that anybody even knew of him. No one ever knew his name or anything, but he did a lot of volunteering with AU4H, and he did a lot of the walks with me. And I remember the one rescue walk we were at, they took a picture of us and they put it in the newspaper, and they were trying to identify who he was. And someone said, well, that's her husband. and they're like, no, it's not. She's not married. And they're like, yes, it is. That's her husband. But I never put anything out. When I was doing a lot of traveling, especially with the Michigan nonprofit, most people didn't even think I was married. So it was like I never talked about being married or kids. So a lot of people did not know that. The only thing that I want to do is I just want people to remember, if ever they say anything or they think of the work we've done, I want them to know how much children mean to us and how I would do anything to protect a child. And that would be the only legacy that I want to keep. I just want them to know that kids are important. And the only reason we fought so hard was to protect children. Yours, mine, and ours.
That's exactly right. Yeah. That's it. And that's what it's always, what it was always about,
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, we stuck to our integrity and to our ethics and to the mission statement of, it's really just for the children. It's all about protecting children, and it's not about anything else.
It has never been.
We certainly tried.
Yeah, it's never been about like making a name for ourselves. It's never been about money. It's never been. I mean, there's not many people that's going to go out there and petition to change laws. There's not many people that's going to go out there and provide assistance to people in need. There's not many people. It takes a special kind of person to really want to give to that capacity. And I think the people that over the years that you, myself, and even Lee, that we surrounded ourselves with, we all had a common goal, and it was all to protect kids.
That's right. Yeah, it was a massive lot of people involved. And that's the thing. I mean, that documentary would have been huge if everybody would have said yes, that we invited. It would have been way too long. We would have had to probably do part 1, part 2, and part 3. Because seriously, it would have been too long. You know what I mean? It would have been, 10, 12-hour long documentary.
Yeah, we had a lot of people come back and say, they wish they could have been a part of it. And they really felt bad that they couldn't be a part of it. But, sometimes, sometimes people are going through things, or sometimes there's personal things going on in your life that you can't control. And I myself know that, that there's times like, as much as I want to be involved in things, I just can't be at the moment. So I totally get it. But it doesn't make these people any less effective. These people are powerhouses in their own.
That's right. That's right. That's why I wanted to kind of bring that up, because the documentary, I mean, we had invited so many people, so many more advocates that we worked with so I worked with them for about the last 20 years. Donna even longer, you know what I mean? And it's like, they, for whatever reason, couldn't join us. So, but if they had, like, the documentary would have been massively huge. We would have had to cut
Yeah.
it into several pieces because it would have been too long to watch. These
Oh
people
yeah.
were powerhouses in their own right, still
Yes.
are today.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, like if you go to, what I'll do is I'll make sure that I put, uh, well, there is all the information down in the show page. So if you're watching, this is part one. We're going to come back and do part two because it's time to end this one now anyway. We'll come back for part two. So join us for part two. It's going to be in a half an hour. But if you look in the description below, you'll see some information about that documentary. And then what I can do is I can add in, um, like Michael Skinner's website, Surviving Spirit, and his music. I can add in A for H, the resource website that Donna Kshir and Lee Cougardawn Roberts have. And then if you're interested and you want to, let's say you're a survivor of abuse, you can go there to these websites and you can look and find out, see if there's something there that will help you, because there's tons of information on those websites. And also, if you're an advocate, if you're somebody who cares about children, maybe you volunteered in your local area or your school or something, and you want more information about, how like what you could do to get involved in your area, you can also go to these websites as well and look at and find that information there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's information for everybody, survivors and people that are volunteers, or people that, advocates, other, who want to get involved. So, yeah, well, I'm going to make sure I'll put that information there, because this show is special tonight. Like Women Like Me, we usually don't have a topic, but tonight was very special because I wanted to honor this 30 years in advocacy anniversary for Donna, because it's really important. It's important to me, and I know it's important to so many people. Kudos, Donna. Kudos to you.
Well,
I mean, really.
I want to say thank you to you, because this means the world to me. When you first said it, I was like, oh, it's no big deal. And then when you said, I really want to do this, it meant a lot. Like, I actually got choked up because I was like, I never really expected anything to this
deal.
level, and I was just like, this just meant the world to me that you wanted to sit down and talk about my 30 years.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's absolutely big. I don't know anybody else who's advocated for 30 years. I mean, you're it. You're the only person I've ever known that's given 30 years to this. I'm like, maybe there's other people. I'm sure there's other people maybe out there that have. I just don't know them. But I've been along for the journey to see the last 20 years really of what you've been doing, and I've been able to be a part of it. So, that's why I'm saying I'm kind of close, because I closely got to see what was going on behind the scenes with all this stuff, and the hard work that went into it, and the the determination. It's like, we're not going to quit. We're just going to keep going.
Wow.
So I think that your work will stand for many, many, many years to come.
Thank you.
And your grandchildren will know the work that you did, and because you keep this all sort of separate from them. They don't know what you basically do.
No.
And that they will know that's why you advocated, and that's why you worked so hard, because you love children, and that you love them with all of your heart, and they're going to know that. I know it. So, all right, everybody, come back in about 25 minutes or so. We're going to come back for part two. We want you to join us. If you're listening in behind the scenes and you just don't want to say hi, that's okay. We're glad that you're here. And if you're listening and you're just thinking, hey, I could say hi, but I don't know, go ahead and say hi. We don't mind. And join the chat if you want to, right? If you have questions for Donna or myself, you can ask us a question. If we want to answer it, we will. If we don't, we'll say what we don't want to. So yeah, we're pretty open about all that stuff. But yeah, it's like, we want you to, yeah, we'll be honest, like seriously, there's no sense in being around, in playing games with it. It's like, no, we'll just be honest with you. So yeah, join us for part two, and we'll see you just in about 25 minutes somewhere in there. See you in a bit.
Thanks, everyone.